in the state of Georgia. Mr. Brunson Reynolds on the line. Matter of fact, he's here right now. B, how's it going?
Pretty good, Jimmy. How about yourself?
Oh, it's going good, man. It's going good. It's going great. I'm glad to have you on this show so we could go ahead and get into this Gennady Golovkin versus Daniel Jacobs fight. To me, this is one of the toughest tests for Gennady Golovkin, but at the same time, I believe it's a tough test for Jacobs as well. A lot of people are pushing for Jacobs to win, but I mean, hey, I think Gennady Golovkin possesses something that I've seen and studying film that can be detrimental to Daniel Jacobs heading into this fight. How do you feel about it?
Well, I pretty much feel that I don't necessarily think that it's a whole lot of people pulling for Danny to win, as it's people really they hate on Triple G. They say he ain't fought nobody. They say that he has a cake schedule. He cherry picks and whatnot. It is a tough fight for both guys. I think it is going to be the hardest fight for Triple G. I also think it's going to be the hardest fight for Danny Jacobs, definitely today. It's going to be a very, very, very interesting matchup.
Okay, cool. So first, I'm going to let you choose because which fight do you want to go over first? Because we have the fight where Jacobs was knocked out. We do have that fight. And we have the Kell Brook versus Triple G fight as well, where a lot of people feel like that fight kind of exposed Gennady with the boxing that Kell Brook was able to do to Triple G. So we do have that one as well. So which one would you like to watch first?
Let's go to the Triple G versus Kell Brooks.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to screen share here and go over to this fight. Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right. So my thing is, in going into this fight, why I really was trying to understand why Kell Brook was a choice for Gennady Golovkin. Like, why would he even fight Kell? Why would Kell Brook even go up and wait to even fight way bigger than him?
For me personally, I didn't necessarily have a problem with Kell Brooks going up to fight him because it was a money fight for Kell Brooks.
Right.
I had a bigger problem with the fight that Gennady Golovkin took the fight based on the fact that he continually knocked Canelo for fighting smaller guys and not coming up and fighting his true weight class. So I felt like Gennady was being a bit of a hypocrite on this fight.
That is true. Gennady was pretty much a hypocrite on this fight with taking this fight with Kell Brook. But I saw a lot in this fight watching this earlier when I watched it, and I want to know if you see the same thing. But I saw a lot from Triple G that I think Daniel Jacobs could be able to perhaps counter against Triple G, because when Triple G, when he fights you, it's more so of he's going to walk you down and try to hit you with that wide left hook, that lunging hook, and then that shot to the body. It just seemed like those are his two big punches that he have, and then before you know it, boom, 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 they out of there, because it seemed like he has a great chin and he could take a lot of heat. But I mean, Kell Brook really didn't possess any power at all in this fight when he fought Triple G at all. It was more so Triple G probably having a better chin, or was it that Kell Brook didn't have no power, fighting the middleweight?
It's a combination of both, because I'm going to tell you right now, Triple G has a chin. he has an iron chin. But at the same time, he was fighting a welterweight. No matter what Kell Brook's weight was that night, he still was a welterweight coming up for that fight. He didn't train himself to basically increase his power or anything like that. He spent his time beefing up to make weight. So basically, Gennady Golovkin was walking through and had no respect for his power whatsoever. That to me, that's another thing is you hear constantly in the boxing world, styles make fights. So just because this particular fight, Gennady basically walked through a lot of punches, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to do the same thing with Danny Jacobs, because in this next fight, Danny Jacobs possesses the power of a true middleweight fighter.
That is true. He does possess that power and speed as well. I believe Daniel Jacobs got some good speed, and he can box. A lot of people say that
when we go to his film, we'll go into some stuff. There's some stuff about Danny Jacobs that I don't like going into this fight,
right?
But we'll discuss that once we go to his film. We'll discuss Gennady, then we'll go over the other one, and then I'll say why I think that there's going to be problems for Danny Jacobs in this fight.
That is true. That is true, because I've seen some some things as well when I was studying Jacobs, and I'm like, man, this could be a problem for Jacobs. But I also see some flaws in Gennady Golovkin's in the way that he fights and the way that he go into fights. I see a lot of flaws in his game as well, and I took notes, but I want to make hearing it from you, who is a trainer, who knows boxing, who has a very good pedigree when it comes to boxing, and that's one reason why I'm glad that I have you on here to do this review with me, because I needed somebody with a great boxing pedigree to be able to help break this fight down and give me a better understanding on what to look for in this fight against Jacobs and Golovkin. One of the things that I'm worried about is can Triple G, can he take something away from Jacobs and make him one dimensional? And I kind of saw it in that Jacobs versus Pirog fight. I seen Jacobs become one dimensional, and I never seen, within those, what was he, 20-0 when he went into that fight? I never seen him be one-dimensional within those 20 fights that he had. And to me, I'm like, well, can Gennady make him one-dimensional?
Because when we look at this, I'm glad that we talked before we did this film study, because Pirog actually he's a mirror image of Gennady, but I think that Gennady has more power than he does, because what happened in that fight is Pirog pressured the piss out of him.
Yeah.
It walking down the whole fight, and it gave Danny didn't have nowhere to hide. When we watch this film right here with Gennady, you'll see some things that Gennady does. A lot of people say he's a brawler. No, he's a boxer puncher. He does a lot of things. It's not fancy boxing, but it's very, very, very elite skills. Some of Gennady, I think Gennady does a lot of things in gamesmanship more than technique. I think he gets hit on purpose a little bit to bring the fight out of people,
right?
To get them out of their shells. Now with Danny, he's not going to be able to do it a whole lot, because Danny can put him to sleep. So the question is what's he going to do to get Danny out of his shell? So I'm looking right here. I guess the fight's starting on your side too?
Right.
Or am I behind?
No, it's you see the same thing I'm seeing.
Okay.
But to me, I love how Kell Brook was able to utilize the jab and have that half step, like that, the way, even though Gennady was trying to walk him down, it's like he'll have that half step, and he would kind of throw a double jab in order to keep Gennady off of him. But he kind of went away from that.
Well, it's the thing is it's hard to, when you got a pressure fighter, Jeremy, it's hard to basically win a fight just keeping that jab off of him. Because if you notice what Gennady's doing, Gennady's left foot is centered up to Kell the whole fight. and keeps walking Kell to the corner. Is going to go once Kell runs out of room going to the ropes. Moving to his left, he's going to, and Gennady's going to go off on him. Also, you'll see, right, it's early in the first round, body shot right here.
Oh, yeah.
That immediately in that fight really took a lot out of Kell Brooks. And he had already felt the power to the body. You'll hear a lot of times old-fashioned trainers will say invest early to the body. He's an old-fashioned trainer. And in boxing right now, Gennady is one of the best body punchers in the game. I got him, and as much as I hate to say it because I'm not a big Canelo fan, Canelo is a great body puncher as well.
And I like that guy in Errol Spence, man. I think Errol Spence really goes to the body as well. I think he tries to cut the body off and go, you know, and then chop off the head when I watch a lot of his fights. And I think he's going to do that when he fights Kell Brook, is really attack Kell Brook at the body. Because like,
well, you'll see a difference in the fight with Kell Brooks and Errol Spence, because Kell will be going against a true welterweight as opposed to a middleweight going to the.
That is true.
Fan, I'm not as big a fan as a lot of people are, thinking that he's the second coming. I think it's a little bit early to call that, but I want to see how he does with the Brooks fight. After the Brooks fight, I'll make my decision on whether or not he's the next big star. Right now, I still got Terrence Crawford and Lomachenko as the stars in the sport.
Oh, absolutely. Those you can't even.
See right here, you can see it right here. He keeps walking him to the corner, walking him to the corner. Now, in the first and second round, Kell does a good job of changing angles, moving left, moving right. But once you, like I said, once you go to that body, you start taking steam out of them legs.
Right.
So you'll see in the third round, a lot of that movement slows down a lot.
Like you said, I think that
he caught him with a nice left hook up top off that body shot too.
Ooh. That's that body shot
right up top. Yep. Left to the body, left to the head. So what do you think? What's your opinion of how this fight's gonna?
Which fight?
For Golovkin.
Against Jacobs?
Yes.
Well, I think if Jacobs take some of what Kell Brook was able to do to Gennady, which was, you know, utilize the jab and try to box him and not more so go into a slugging fest with Gennady Golovkin, I believe he has a great chance, because if he could take Triple G in the deep waters, which we haven't seen Triple
has not been done yet.
Then he could possibly, you know, make a case for himself to win that fight and possibly win it by knockout. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that Daniel Jacobs is able to take Triple G in the deep waters, because we never seen him in deep waters before, and we could really see what Gennady possesses.
Also, pay attention to what Gennady does. He keeps a very high guard. A lot of the stuff that people see, or the average boxing fan watches, is they watch Kell Brooks go off with major combinations and 4 and 5 punch combinations, but he's not really landing anything clean. Now, what he did expose on Gennady, though, is that Gennady leaves stuff up underneath. The uppercuts was landing at will,
right,
from Kell Brooks. He was sneaking a jab through, but a jab is not really a punch that's gonna. It effectively sets up everything else. You're not gonna win a fight just off of a jab unless your name's Larry Holmes. Gennady is what allows him to stalk people. He's got a very subtle head movement. What I don't like Gennady, though, throw a lot of combinations.
Right.
2-punch combinations. It's a body to the head. It's not, 3 and 4 punch combinations, But partially that's because he's a knockout artist, so he's looking for the big shot.
But that's what I like about Jacob. Jacobs is he will be able to get to. He loves to get off 2 to 3 punch combinations, and I think that's going to serve him well in this fight with Triple G if he's able to get those shots off and not, open himself up to take a big shot from Gennady. But I just love how Kell Brook was, he was in there. He was able to box Triple G, and it seemed like it was kind of putting Triple G in a position to where he was more defensive than he was offensive when somebody is actually like boxing with him instead of standing there trying to be a counter fighter with him, but they were bringing the fight to him. I think that kind of changes up Golovkin's game plan of what he wants to do to you if you're able to bring the fight to him. Because a lot of fighters seem like when they fought Gennady, they were more so on the counter side, worried about taking a big shot versus them trying to bring the fight to him and actually boxing against Gennady Golovkin. And I think that's where a lot of people had problems. But, I mean, I seen with when Willie Monroe fought Triple G, he brought the fight to Triple G more so than.
I think that's actually what Triple G wants. I think Triple G wants you to try to bring the fight to him because it's going to open you up more. You got to be a boxer counter puncher against Triple G. You got to be able to move and punch on the move. If you stand toe to toe with Triple G, he's going to win every time, just about, because the man has iron in his fists. I mean, if you go back to his amateur career, he knocked Lucien Boutet out with 10-ounce amateur gloves and Lucien wearing a headgear. I mean, and Lucien's no punk.
Right. I just watched Lucien Boutet fight a couple of weeks ago against Elita Alvarez. But Elita Alvarez was able to knock out Lucien Boutet, I believe.
Well, once that chin starts to go, it don't really recover.
Yeah, right. See, but that knockdown right.
You're starting to see in the middle of this round, Kell starts kind of to where he really don't know what to do anymore. He's still trying to box, but the pressure starts getting to him.
And then those shots are starting to get him, because this is where I believe his eye gets injured, right?
Yes, because in the corner in between these two rounds, I think that the corner man was asking him, to let him stop it.
Because now it's a problem now.
Yeah, Kell pleaded. If you notice too that when he comes out of the fourth round, if it's the fourth, I think it's the fourth round. If it ain't this one, it's the next round. He comes out and he's really just trying to stay away from getting hit.
See, he's more so worried about his eye than anything. But I just wish he was able to get back to doing. I think if his eye was not a problem and he was able to get back to doing what he was doing earlier in the fight, like you said, he was landing those uppercuts and those 1-2 punch combinations against Gennady, but that eye played a major factor.
Happens to a boxer, Jeremy, when he lands his best punches over and over again, and a man don't stop coming. It's the old Rocky adage. Rocky fought. And I know that this is a fiction movie, but when Rocky fought the Russian, Ivan Drago, Ivan Drago pretty much gave up because he kept hitting the man with everything that he got.
Right.
And this man ain't going nowhere. He's standing in front of him. Honestly, that does happen, even though that was fictional. That's what happens to a mental fighter. You go back to the Floyd Mayweather Shane Mosley fight. That's the infamous, when Floyd got rocked.
Right.
If you notice though, that from that point on, his fight, even though that Mosley had landed the biggest shot that happened in that fight, Mosley was like, I hit him with the best shot I got, and it didn't phase this guy. So boxing's just as much mental as it is physical. And you can see that's what's happening to Kell Brooks. He's like, this dude won't stop coming.
And Gennady did not stop coming at all. But I think it was more so of him knowing he's the bigger fighter. Gennady knowing he's the bigger fighter. I believe that's why he brought so much pressure on Kell Brook, because it seemed like like you said, anything that Kell Brook was doing to him and the shots that he was landing on Gennady was like nothing. It was almost like hitting him with punching a pillow, knowing that the pillow don't have any feeling at all whatsoever. And it just seemed like Gennady, like you said, he just kept coming, kept cutting off the ring, and was landing shots on Kell Brook. Like that jab right there, man, that eye looks like hamburger meat. I also saw like in the fourth round, like it was after the fourth round, going into the fifth round, when they had that towel over his head, like they were just pretty much hiding his face. Like what was up with that? Now Triple G is bringing on that pressure on Kell Brook. But I love how Kell Brook is like, he's getting back. See, now he's getting back to that. Moving around the ring. But the thing is, it was, to me, what was big was the simple fact that Triple G was not able to knock out Kell Brook. Knowing he's the bigger fighter, how can you not knock out Kell Brook? Because Kell Brook was never in a position to where he was hurt to the point to where, like, okay, he's about to get knocked out. I really hate the fact that Kell Brook was not able to take Triple G in the deep waters, but you can tell if you're a boxer with great footwork and you're fighting Triple G, ring generalship will be very effective if you use ring generalship against Gennady Golovkin. It'll be very effective because if you can move around the ring and not let Gennady cut you off, and you're able to land shots, counter shots to Gennady Golovkin, I believe that puts you in a better position to win than anything going up against Triple G. But like you said, those uppercuts were effective, very effective in this fight. See, this is where they got that towel over his head, and they got him covered up with this towel. And I'm sitting here like, okay, this is where they just pretty much basically saying that the fight is over. Wow, like those shots to the body, man. When Triple G throws shots to the body, he is pretty much trying to kill you. Seriously. But he was able to land. Like, what I like about Kell Brook though, as Brunson is going to be able to come back on the line. What I like about Kell Brook is the simple fact that Kell Brook, like I said, he was able to 1-2 with the jab, and then at the same time, he was able to box Gennady Golovkin and open him up a little bit to show that, hey, he has some flaws in his game. But at the same time, I mean, what can you do when you have a big middleweight like Gennady Golovkin? And this is where the fight is over with right here. When you have a big middleweight in Gennady Golovkin who is going to walk you down like that, like Brunson was talking about earlier, that pressure that Triple G was bringing, I don't want to see Jacobs in a position to where he's on the ropes like this. Kell Brook put himself on the ropes to where, like, in this round, it's like he's pretty much giving up. I don't see him utilizing the ring or anything like that. He's more so worried about the pressure that Triple G is bringing than anything. And he also has a messed up eye at the same time. So, but you're in a fight. But if you see how precise Gennady Golovkin is with his shots, man, that is crazy to me. He is very precise and very accurate with his shots, and he will throw a shot in order to. Oh, there you go. They're throwing in the towel now, but the fight is still going on. Kell Brook don't even see them throwing in the towel. He's still fighting. But you know what? It was a good stoppage. I really do believe that it was a good stoppage. And at the same time, man, it's sad because Triple G is getting rid of opponents so fast to the point to where you're like, gosh, man, can we get somebody in there that can fight Triple G? Like, seriously. I'm one of the people who are sitting there like, man, can we get Triple G in the ring against somebody who is really going to box this man and not be afraid of him at all? And that's one of the things where I'm like, man, time is going to tell in this fight with Jacobs where Gennady Golovkin stands. Time is really going to tell. And I can't wait. I can't wait. So now I'm sitting here. We're finna get my boy Brunson back on the line. We're gonna get him back on the line. But before we get him on the line, I have a question that I want to ask some of the fans that are out there. Like, when you watch this fight with Kell Brook versus Triple G, what was it to you all that stood out in this fight? And you could respond to my Facebook page at Jeremy Sports Network. Respond to my Facebook page and just tell me, how do you feel Triple G did against Kell Brook, seeing the fact that he brought that pressure to Kell Brook, but also at the same time, Kell Brook was able to land some good shots against Gennady Golovkin. He was able to land some good shots against Gennady. And to me, that stands out more than anything, is the simple fact that he was able to land shots. He was able to land shots against him. So we have Brunson back as well. So we're trying to get him back on the line. So while we're waiting to get him back on the line, we're going to take a mini break before we go into the Jacobs versus Pirog fight. because to me that was a really, really, really good fight for to show where he Daniel Jacobs is. That's a really good fight to show where Daniel Jacobs is. And for me, it's more so, hey B, I see you. You could just unmute your microphone. B, unmute your microphone. I don't think he can hear me. I'm trying to get him to unmute his mic. Well, like I said, we're going to take a mini break. I'm going to give you guys some music to listen to. I am a huge fan of a little bit of my boy Adrian Broner, who I'm looking forward to seeing him fight really soon. I'm really looking forward to seeing AB fight really soon. And hey B, you got to unmute your microphone. I see you. Unmute your mic. Okay, maybe it's me that needs to unmute you. So while we get ready to sit here and get Brunson back on the line, some Adrian Broner.
I never had it, I never had shit. I have a pot of piss and now I'm living lavish. Taking lots of shrimp and pasta garlic on my crab legs. Used to get it with the chopper, now I'm chopping silent. Streets is getting scary, bodies getting buried. Niggas giving up their big man like Orlando Magic. Never been in nothing for us, so I had to have it. All white, Section 8. I used to but I'm out community gated. I'm in my mansion. Bad bitch from Washington, she got that red skin. I ain't going back to pro, cause I never had it.
Well, how about this? I'll resend you the info.
When it got that top and down, cause I never had it. I stay rocky as I know, cause I never had it. They ask why I'm blowing thousands, cause I never had it. Yeah, I never had it. Yeah, I never had it. Been like 40 on a right, cause I never had it. I put two hoes at the same time, cause I never had it. And I ain't going like a pro, cause I never had it. Pop the 40 for protection, cause I never had it. Threw away my Smith and Wesson, cause they had a problem. All this money, you would think I'm winning, no, I'm not. You could probably back it down. Like a cat sack, beat the pussy up to death, killing like a lion. How about my 9/11? I'm finessing, I was with it August 1st, but I was close on August 2nd. I got wings all on my jeans, I'm on my fly shit. And I ain't going back to throw, I never had it. I'm also around with 100,000, cause I never had it. When it got that top and back, cause I never had it. I stay rocky as I'm out, cause I never had it. They ask why I'm blowing thousands, cause I never had it. Yeah, I never had it. Yeah, I never had it. Been like 40 on a right, cause I never had it. I fuck two hoes at the same time, cause I never had it. And I ain't going back to go, cause I never had it. ain't never gave a fuck if you gave a fuck. Yeah. It's only gonna get worse for you haters. You haters only make me better. Yeah, let's work. I ain't never cared that these haters always doubt me. No. And I ain't never cared what a snitch had to say about me. No. It just make me what it do. Yeah. It just make me what it do. And I ain't never cared that these haters always doubt me. No. And I ain't never cared what a snitch had to say about me. No. It just make me what it do. Make me wanna put a hit on y'all niggas. It just make me what it do. Make me wanna.
All right, B, you back?
Yeah, you got me now.
I got you now. We are in business. We back in business. Okay, cool. We back in business. So,
Sorry for the technical difficulty.
oh no, we good. We're gonna get ready for the because I guess the Kell Brook fight it ended. But like you were saying about the Kell Brook though, and the Gennady Golovkin, him bringing on that pressure really changed that fight for Kell Brook. Like you said, it really happened in the first round with that solid body shot that he put on Kell Brook. And when you said that, once he felt that power, it pretty much changed the whole fight, right?
Pretty much. I mean, Kell knew that he wasn't going to be able to go forward at all with the fight.
Absolutely. And that's one thing is I was talking to one of my guys the other day, and they were saying when Triple G hit you, boy, you could see it on people's faces. Like they wear it on their faces, like the Curtis Stevens knockout when he dropped Curtis Stevens and he was making that face that he made from feeling that power. It was like Triple G is nothing to mess with. But I've talked to
numerous guys that have been in camp with Triple G. They've said that they've never felt power like that from a middleweight.
Wow. I got a question though. Do you think the Jamel Charlo has a chance to stop Triple G?
No.
Are you serious? Whoa. Charlo doesn't have it? He don't have what it takes? I think Charlo has some power as well.
Charlo's good, but then again, keep in mind, Charlo's knocking out 154 pounders. He's not knocking out, 160 pounders. And Charlo's really 160 pounder. I mean, he struggled this last fight to make
154 right against Julian.
I mean, you just said a minute ago, and I gotta backtrack for a minute that you're a big fan of Adrian Broner. I think Adrian Broner's been the biggest hype machine since he came into boxing.
Right.
Even when Adrian was doing and being successful, I consistently was on record as saying the only thing that Adrian Broner is good at is making weight. Adrian Broner was coming down from 160 pounds fighting 130-pound guys. Gavin Reese fight, Gavin Reese was touching him at will, and Gavin Reese is a C-level fighter at 130 pounds. It wasn't affecting him. And you got to keep in mind, too, that everybody that Adrian was sparring were welterweights. Cases, he would spar 154 pounders.
Right.
So he was used to being hit by bigger guys, but the guys that he was fighting wasn't used to being hit by bigger guys.
Right.
So I like Adrian Broner as an entertainer.
That's why I like him. That's why I like him, because he's as far as boxing wise, he has a lot of work.
He's a C+, B- fighter, if you ask me.
Right. And I don't have a problem with you saying that at all. Like, that's just being real. That's just being real. Yeah. I really don't think.
I thought you were saying that you was a fan of his boxing. I
love the entertainment that Adrian brings to the boxing world, because a lot of fighters don't have that swagger about themselves to promote themselves, to put themselves out there. It's a page that I think a lot of young fighters should take from out of Adrian Broner's book, that he took out of Floyd's book, that you have to sell yourself. And I believe Adrian Broner does that very well in order to.
He's done it even better than Floyd because Floyd could fight.
Right.
So I take it off. I don't knock any man's hustle. Like, and in fairness to you, going back to what you were saying, you said you were a fan of Adrian Broner. Then you played one of his songs. You didn't play him actually boxing. So, like you said, you're a fan of the entertainer.
Exactly. I love the entertainment that he brings, and that's what I like about Adrian Broner. You know, and I think he's being. I don't know what's next for him because that's one of the big questions. He said he's coming back in June, but I really don't know what's next for him. People are saying, well, maybe he may fight Collazo or something like that. They was just throwing names out there. I'm thinking maybe he's going to take another fighter that was probably at the same level of Adrian Granados, maybe.
Yeah, the thing is that he's running out of the ability for people to pay or the fans to want to watch him. Because, you know, fans don't want to watch him fight, you know, these second tier, third tier fighters. You know what I'm saying? He portrays himself as being, you know, the Floyd Mayweather replacement, you know, the top level guys. You know, you got to fight Lamont Peterson. You got to fight Timothy Bradley. Or, you know, at 140, you fight Crawford.
Right.
You know. And out of all three of them, I believe he gets his butt whooped by either one of them.
And I'm thinking, I'm like, well, if you're saying you're going to take over boxing, like you said, when I look at 147-pound division, I don't see Adrian nowhere, his name nowhere in there at all because you got Keith Thurman, you got Errol Spence, you still have Kell Brook, you got I guess you could say Amir Khan, who's still trying to, I guess, sell himself to get a fight since he didn't get the fight with Pacquiao or whatever. But, I mean, you have good quality guys that said 100.
You got Danny Garcia. I mean, Danny lost to Thurman, you know, before that, and it was a good fight. So Danny's still on the mat.
Right, and that's what I said. Danny earned a lot of I'm not going to lie. When I was there, even though, you know, that's Danny's hometown, you know, well, Philly, he's from Philly, but, you know, that's his backyard in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It was a whole lot of DSG fans that felt as though, you know, Danny was robbed or whatnot. But I was like, y'all have to understand, Danny been deserving of a loss because I believe he lost to Mauricio Herrera. I believe he lost to Lamont Peterson. But a lot of people say, well, Lamont wasn't as aggressive as Keith was. And then I'm like, well, okay, I guess you can have that. But at the same time, Lamont Peterson's ring generalship and the way he controlled the ring, and Danny showed that he wasn't able to cut off the ring. I think that played into more so Keith Thurman's hands when Keith fought him. Keith was like, I can bang with you, and at the same time, I'm gonna outbox you as well. And so that,
you know, I have this discussion with my son all the time. You know, and to let the fans on the what's name son know, my son is currently ranked number 7 in the country at 119 pounds at the 15, 16-year-old age limit. He's an up and coming boxer, and one of the problems that Danny Garcia had in that Thurman fight, Danny boxed well, and Danny was in the fight the whole time. His facial expression and his aura, it kind of showed that he seemed like he was scared of Thurman's power. And I seen it in the first round. I was like, Danny looks scared. He looks timid.
right?
You know, and that weighs on the judges. Look at everything, especially when you're in a good fight. I'm also a amateur judge and referee, so I judge a lot of amateur fights. It's no different judging an amateur fight as it is a pro fight. Is that you look at a lot of things, and when you look at a close round where, you know, both of them, it could have went either way, you look at different things like, or, you know, body language. And Danny's body language was not the one of a champion the whole fight. Thurman looked like, it's my fight, I'm gonna beat up on this little boy.
Right.
And Danny looked like, you know, he looked like he bought into the one-time hype. He didn't want to get one-timed, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
He was scared of the big one punch that Keith could throw. So Danny, boxing-wise and skill-wise, so. But Keith just looked like a champion. Danny didn't. That's to me the way that fight broke down.
And I agree with you when you say Keith looked more so of a champion than what Danny did, because to me, but at the same time though, Danny did earn a lot of respect from me because, like I said, I had Danny getting knocked out in the 7th round. And the first round, when Keith brought that pressure on Danny and he was able to get off some shots, and I saw Danny like kind of hit the dab a little bit when he kind of fell down. I was like, oh shit, Danny's dabbing. Like he's finna go down. I really thought the fight was going to be over quicker than usual, but I think they both had a lot of respect for each other. I think Keith had a lot of respect for Danny, and as well as Danny had a lot of respect for Keith. But I think Keith really knew what to do in order to beat Danny, which should have been done a long time ago, like I said, in the Mauricio Herrera, Lamont Peterson.
Yeah, he had too long.
Yeah, that's why I said I really think Danny was what would I consider Danny at 147? He was a 147 WBC champion. He was a fraud at 147. Like he fought for a vacant against.
Yeah, I had a problem with him having that vacant title anyway, because basically that was Floyd's title.
Right.
To me, Al gave Danny a gift. Because to me, Danny, first of all, that was Danny's first fight at 147.
Right.
Fighting for that belt right there. It should have been Thurman. It should have been Bradley. It should have been the guys that had already paid their dues at that weight class. I have a problem with the fact that Danny was given that fight, and he was given that fight against, who did he even fight? It was a second tier fight.
Robert Guerrero.
Yeah, it was yeah. And why was Robert Guerrero fighting for it? A guy who had already had 2 or 3 losses on his record at the time. I think it was.
And then he did
that was 2.
Lost to Keith Thurman before he fought Danny, and he still was able to fight for another title shot. Like, are you serious?
I think that Thurman felt like he was shafted anyway for that. So I mean, the thing is that I'm glad that we finally starting to get boxing back on the map, thanks to PBC putting this stuff in people's living rooms. Is instead of paying $57 for a fight like Keith Thurman, you know, a year ago, 2 years ago, we wouldn't have seen that fight without paying a whole lot of money and having a whole lot of people over.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
You know, we could sit there and watch that fight on our phone, whatever, you know. And it was in our living room, thanks to Al Heyman putting it back into our living room. These great fights, you know, televised.
To me, and then one thing is, I love the fact that Keith Thurman don't mind fighting, you know, on free television. He don't mind because he's like, why pay to see me fight when I didn't have to pay to see the likes of Sugar Ray and those guys who was before me? I didn't have to pay to see those because they were on television. So why should people pay to see me? If I could get more people to tune in, because they did what, 5.1 million views? Like they did 5.
Yeah, it was the biggest viewed fight since 1998. So that's the debate me and you had on whether or not they'll rematch. I had to bring that point up. You know, I'm not necessarily saying they are going to rematch real soon, but it's definitely in the cards that people wanted to see it, and they wasn't let down when they did see it. It was a damn good fight.
It was.
It was totally different than the Floyd Pacquiao. You know, we wanted to see that fight more than we wanted to see any other fight. We waited. You know, our mouth was watering, and then it turned into a dud. Keith and Danny. You know, we had that marked on our calendar for 3-4 months. You know, I think they did a smart thing by Danny fighting a bum as a warm-up fight, you know, taking the little garbage fight, right, and making our mouth water just a little bit more. I mean, we were mad at Danny for fighting the stupid fight, but it was like he made us wait just a little bit longer. So we knew that after that fight, it was the Thurman, but he was able to push it back another 2 months, you know, so we couldn't wait. And when it happened, it was one of the best fights we've seen in the last 10 years.
Oh, absolutely. And dude, just being in the building, the excitement, the crowd. I think it was Erickson Lubin though that really set the night off. Well, yeah, Erickson Lubin watching his fight. Well, I was watching Clarence Booth fight as well. I really wanted Clarence Booth to win. They didn't showcase his fight. They taped it, but they did not air it. But Clarence Booth, when he started the night, he's from St. Petersburg as well. And I was able to eat lunch with Clarence the day of the fight. I was able to eat lunch with him at Junior's, and we were eating lunch, and he was saying, you know, how he pretty much struggled to make this weight going into this fight, but everybody kind of knew, you know, that this was a very tough fight for Clarence, and Clarence ended up losing the fight on a premature stoppage, even though he was knocked down. I believe the ref stopped it too early, but I think that's kind of that kind of like had me feeling like, oh, it's gonna be one of those nights, man. Like stuff gonna happen that you really don't want to happen. It's gonna happen. And then Erickson Lubin, watching him fight, and the way he had his knockout, I was like, oh, this is gonna set it off.
Good night.
It's gonna be one of those nights because Lubin's knockout set everybody off. I'm talking about people who was just like waiting, like outside of the stadium before they came in, before they was getting ready to announce that Keith was finna fight Danny. Man, a lot of people was kind of like watching on the TVs outside, hanging out and stuff like that. And then when they saw that Lubin knockout showing on the big screen, they flooded like inside of the arena. And I'm like, yeah, Lubin done set the night off. Like he set it off. And also Richardson's Floyd Mayweather, the new guy that signed to the money team.
That boy lost that fight. You talking about the little Hispanic dude? That boy lost that fight.
No, not him. It's a black guy.
No, you're talking about the cruiserweight. The cruiserweights.
Yeah, he had won his fight, you know, and 50 came out the ring with him and everything. You know, it was pretty much, it was a good night. But Lubin, Erickson Lubin, who we had on the line the other day, he set it off.
We're not gonna talk about him right now.
But
I'm a fan of Lubin. I'm good, but you know, I'm partial to my boy Justin DeLoach, and to me, they're trying to put they're pushing Lubin a little bit more than they're pushing Justin. Justin's just beat 4 undefeated fighters back to back to back.
But Justin gotta get that. He gotta get a fight against like a tougher opponent, though. I mean,
everybody he's faced in the last 4 fights have been 15-0, 18-0, 21-0. He's fighting. He's fighting everybody. Lubin ain't fought nobody yet. He fought one good opponent, and now they're talking about he's fighting Charlo next.
Well, he was up. He's the mandatory now for Charlo. But I mean, I like I said, I like your boy Justin. He was actually on FS1.
Last night.
So I watched him on FS1 last night, and I mean, he's a good kid, man. And I really do believe he's gonna make some noise. I hope he just don't fall into that realm of like how they do my boy Demetrius Andre. The way they do him, the way they did him.
They're not going to. Demetrius did that to himself. I know Demetrius. Demetrius did that to himself. You know, Demetrius turned down $500,000 to fight for the what's name because a BS thing he thought he had with Rock Nation.
Right.
He had the contract to take the fight, but Rock Nation said that they were going to give him a contract not to take the fight. He decided not to take the fight to go with Rock Nation. Rock Nation backed out of the contract, so he didn't end up fighting Charlo. He wanted more money because Charlo was getting $1 million. Because Charlo signed with Al Heyman. Al Heyman gets you the money. Banner Promotions doesn't. So Boo Boo messed himself up on that one. I love Boo Boo to death, but Boo Boo messed himself up. Boo Boo should have took the fight, got the $500,000, went in there, whooped Charlo's ass, and then he'd be on to Canelo or whoever it may be.
Right.
He could have called his shots now. Now what he's doing is he's showing up at press conferences, calling people out left and right. These dudes do not have to fight Boo Boo. They got multi-million-dollar fights that's on there. The 154-pound weight class is loaded.
It is.
So
And that bring up a good question to you after you make your after you say what you was about to say, because I do have a good question for you.
I love Boo Boo, but Boo Boo screwed himself. The fight was there for him to fight Charlo. He backed out of it. Charlo didn't back out. Now he's showing up at the Charlo fights talking about they're underneath him. No, they got belts and money.
Now Boo Boo has a belt because he went over to Germany and he was able to win his fight. And he has the regular WBA title, but they saying now he's the mandatory for. Well, Lara done called him out on Twitter, so Lara wants to fight Boo Boo Andrade, and I think that's going to be a big fight for him. I believe he's going to automatically accept that fight against Lara because
they've been talking about that fight for 3 years, and I hope it happens. But it's going to be the most boring fight we've seen in 20 years. It's two counterpunchers that's going to stand there looking at each other all day long.
Right.
I think Boo Boo beats Lara. I hope he beats Lara, and I hope he gets back into the mix. But it's time for Boo Boo to start getting in with the big guys. He had the WBO belt before. The WBA belt is a step down from the WBO, if you ask me.
Right.
You gotta have the WBC.
Right. Oh yeah, the green belt is the money belt. That is the money.
Yeah, you got to be up in that mix, or the mandatory challenger for the WBC.
Right.
So we'll see what happens, but I feel sorry for Lara.
So within that though, this is the question that I have to ask. Like within that, how do you feel about this tournament that Richard Schaefer? Right, they're putting together this tournament, and to me, I'm like, why? I honestly feel like they're doing the tournament already, but they just kind of like putting it out there, like, hey, yeah, we're getting ready to do this tournament. I believe it's already going on in the 147-pound division because, like, right after the weigh-in with Keith Thurman and Danny, it get announced that Sean Porter and Andre Berto are fighting an elimination title bout.
And I don't necessarily think that that's the case. 147-pound weight class for the last 5, 6, 8 years has been a competitive weight class. So every fight you get at 147 is a pretty good fight. Richard Schaefer, if you look at the article, he wants to do it at some of the weight classes that's not getting the notoriety. Cruiserweight. He mentioned 154, but shoot, if you ask me, 154 is the second best weight class there is right now.
It is.
There's a bunch of good fights that's on the table at 154 pounds.
That's why I said it'll be good if they would put it with 100. Well, I mean, if they did do the tournament for 154 pounds, I just feel like a lot of those fights that we want to happen, fast.
Well, you'll get Boo Boo. Boo Boo will be in the mix then. They'll be forced to fight Boo Boo. There will be no more running.
Right.
So,
man, I hope it don't go to something like cruiserweight. You know what I mean? It's a lot of money on the line, so I really don't feel like they're going to do it to a division.
Well, that was one of the weight classes that was mentioned in the article was cruiserweight. But there's not that many cruiserweights that anybody really wants to see.
Right. Like,
and cruiserweight, if you ask me, it's a lost division because 178, you got good, decent fighters that you want to see fight. And heavyweight, you got fighters that you want to see fight. Cruiserweights are just dudes that are too small to be heavyweight, but too big to be 178.
Right.
So, it's like land right there. So we'll see what happens. Before we got to get to the other video. We'll sit here and talk boxing all day long. What's your feelings of Mr. Wilder?
Oh man, Deontay. Deontay is our real people champion at the Boxing Voice. He is our real people champion. But with Wilder, I think now the same thing that you said about Adrian Broner, how he done ran out of cherry picks. The same thing has happened for Deontay. He's ran out of cherry picks, so now you have no other options but to fight big time heavyweights like Who they're talking about now?
Joshua,
Right? Anthony Joshua.
Luis.
See, but Luis, I don't think he's going to fight him, given the fact that he's already, tested positive, even though he's under the Nevada testing now. But he's already tested positive for steroids before, and Wilder's big on not fighting anybody who's already tested positive before. So I believe that Luis Ortiz fight is not going to happen. But I really want to see him against the winner of Fury and Joseph Parker.
Okay.
I really want to see him against one of those fighters. And then after Joshua defeats Klitschko, then maybe perhaps at the end of the year, we may get Anthony Joshua, or at the beginning of next year, we'll get Joshua versus Deontay Wilder as well. I don't think
That's what I'm hoping.
I don't think Stavern is in the midst, even because Wilder beat you already,
But they're saying that that's his next fight.
So he is going to
Stavern. There's rumors. There's rumors that that's going to be his next fight, is a rematch.
Yeah, and Stavern's is mandatory, but I feel like Stavern, like we seen you have you held the title, but you lost to Deontay Wilder, and I believe if they fight again, he'll lose again, because I believe Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, remember he claimed it. He claimed dehydration that night, so that may be how they try to get back into the mix. Is that it's going to be a different fight because I was dehydrated. I don't buy it.
You're
Deontay lost. Huh?
Dehydrated at heavyweight. You ain't trying to cut.
Yeah.
You ain't trying to make no weight.
Well, they say that he took something and it made him dehydrated. I don't even remember what the deal was, but it was all BS if you ask me. And to me though, Deontay lost every round of the fight. He just now won until he knocked
Gerald Washington.
Out.
Absolutely, I believe Gerald
Washington and premature stoppage because he didn't hit the guy with the last 4 punches that he threw.
Right, and he was swinging wild. I'm like, why would the ref step in and stop that?
Maybe he felt for the dude's life because, I mean, I've witnessed in the gym personally Deontay knock a dude out with 16-ounce gloves, in sparring. I've seen it firsthand. The dude does have a cannon in his right shoulder. You get a guy who knows how to stay away from that right hand long enough and build up points. Washington was no caliber fighter and was beating the brakes off of him.
Right.
You get a Tyson Fury, how to not get hit. Ask Klitschko.
Right. And my thing was, honestly, going into that fight, because we had talked to Gerald Washington, and then knowing that he took this fight on short notice, it was more so that I'm like, well, Gerald Washington, he always prepares. He's always in shape. And to me, I feel like he's a really good boxer. But he showed in the first 4 rounds, to me, I had him winning all 4 rounds against Deontay Wilder. I believe Deontay was very sluggish, started out very slow. But like I said, that one shot changed the game. But like you said, it was premature stoppage. And I don't think that it should have. It should have been stopped that quick. But I feel like a lot of people say, well, I know when I was talking to Nestor was telling me when he was there at the fight, the angle that they was showing us on TV, he posted another angle and it showed where Gerald actually was like buckling, like his knees buckled after he took that shot. And that was like one of the main reasons why the referee stepped in and was like, hey, that's it. And we were just seeing from another angle those shots that Deontay Wilder was kind of like throwing and that he was missing. But Nestor had posted on his page.
He did. The very first shot that hit him, it did buckle his knees. There's no doubt about it. But like I said, it looked like to me he recovered while 4 or 5, 6, windmill shots didn't land at all. So right. I like Deontay. He's a great guy. I love what he does with his daughter. But the Joshua, the Tyson Fury, the guys that's up there, and not fighting guys to test positive for steroids or any kind of performance enhancing. people at heavyweight. At heavyweight, there's a lot of people that's been popped for some type of performance enhancing. So we'll see what happens.
I'm glad that the WBC has implemented this VADA testing program, because we seen that they tested Triple G, 5 times going into this fight with Jacobs, which is really good, and that shows like, hey, like they're cleaning up the sport. They're taking, and it's putting a lot of fighters who were at risk with, and I think that was one reason why Floyd, was pushing for the testing against Pacquiao, was because I'm like, man, if you go and look at how little bitty Pacquiao was, and then like to where he was at 147, I'm like, yeah, I'll test him too. Why not? Look at his calves. His calves look like tree stumps.
I'll rebut that. And if you go year by year, weight class by weight class, him and Floyd increased on weight at exactly the same pace. The difference was Pacquiao started as a pro, so we seen him as a pro. At the same time Pacquiao was a pro, and they were at the same weight class whenever Floyd was an amateur and Pacquiao was a pro. So it just, was knocking people out at an unseen pace. So that was really what was scary. Not as much the fact that he got big, because that happens. I mean, look at Lomachenko. Lomachenko has went up three weight classes in a year and a half with these guys.
Right.
Because, you don't start making money in this sport until you're at about 140 pounds. Underneath that, it's, Lomachenko's making money, but a lot of that has to do with what he did as an amateur and winning two gold medals. That got him notoriety. So I honestly, he gets a lot of hate for the fact that he came into boxing and started fighting, for championships when he came in. His second fight was for a title.
The third fight, he was fighting for a title.
A lot of people hate on that fact, saying he didn't pay his dues. Well, to me, I think why do I got to go? I already know how to box, is what he said. To get put me in there. Let me fight whoever, because I can beat anybody. And to me, I'm an old school guy. I take my hat off to a dude that's like that. I don't need to go fight a bunch of punks.
Was he like
what's that?
301 as an amateur, or was he It was 301, I believe. What was it?
It was more than that. It was close to 400 fights, and he had one loss. The one loss he had was in the World Championships, and he came back the following year and knocked the guy out in the first round.
So to me, there's no dues you have to pay. If you fight that many fights as an amateur and you don't lose as many as you fought, because you see a lot of people who fight a lot of amateur fights, and they pretty much have, if they fight over, let's say 60, you're going to see some who may have at least 5 to 10 losses, maybe, perhaps, but to fight, like you said, almost 350 to 400 fights and lose only one, and you come back and knock the guy out in the first one. Are you serious? Come on, what more does he have to do? That's why I believe he fought, earlier in his pro career for a title that early.
Well, he came out and he said that. He told everybody when he signed his contract, I'm not signing a contract with you unless you can guarantee me a title. He wanted a title shot for his first fight. Bob Arum said, I can't give you a title shot for your first fight. I'll give it to you for your second fight. So he signed with Bob Arum. So, and the rest is history.
Right. So, all right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get a little bit into the Danny Jacobs fight. And like you said, so going into this fight with Jacobs, what was it that you were mostly concerned about that with Jacobs fighting Pirog? Did you think it was more so? To me, I believe a lot played into this fight that a lot of people are not going to talk about. And to me, I think it was more so of Jacobs losing his grandmother the weekend before this fight. I think that took away from his mindset of this fight going into the fight, because to lose your grandmother and then the weekend before, and then you turn around and have a fight, that whole week right there of her being gone,
Yeah.
being a part of your life, you're thinking more about that than you are about the fight. And then by the time it's fight time, you're like, okay, I can flip the switch. But I felt like it was too late when he tried to flip the switch, and he ended up, we already know what we about to see in the 5th round. But,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, you can go ahead and start it, and then as it plays, I'll point some of the things out. There's some things about Danny Jacobs I just really don't like going into a top tier fight. You know, he's already knocked out a top tier Peter Quillen. You know, he's had some top tier fights, but to me, these guys ain't Triple G.
That is true.
You know, one of the things, he's very flat-footed on that front foot, as we'll see in the video. I don't like the fact how he constantly switches from orthodox to southpaw.
Right.
There's I don't have a problem with a guy doing that, such as the best I've ever seen do it is Terrence Crawford.
When he fought Gamboa.
But he's done it just about in every fight that he's been in. The thing about it, though, is he does it based on something that he sees or a feel in the fight. Terrence Crawford even did it as an amateur. But usually when he makes his switch, he stays in the stance that he switches to. He doesn't switch back and forth and back and forth. To me, Danny, it just seems like, you know, it's almost unscientific, you know. It doesn't look like he does it to get an advantage, if you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but to me, the other thing that bothers me, especially in this fight going with Triple G, is that he's very heavy-footed on that front foot, which doesn't, you know, it doesn't allow him to put a whole lot behind his jab. When he's throwing his jab, he's throwing it all arm, no body. You know, the power from your power and your punches come from your legs, and to keep a guy off of you like Golovkin, you got to put a stiff jab in his face. And if you're heavy-footed on that front foot, you're not putting anything on that jab.
Right. And and to me, like you was talking about when Jacobs was switching from orthodox to southpaw, one of the things that I saw that Jacobs was doing was allowing that right hand from Pirog to get in a whole lot. And we could see it at the beginning, like in the 1st round. Pirog was able to land that right hand a whole lot in the 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round, and then before you know it, boom, like it was a knockout. And I'm looking at how Triple G fought Kell Brook and how Triple G gonna land some of those right hands. And to me, can Jacobs take somebody who's aggressive like how this fighter was aggressive? Because I really didn't think that Jacobs knew that Pirog was going to be aggressive like this when he went on to fight him, because it seemed like he was ill prepared. Did it not look like he was ill prepared for an aggressor fighter? It didn't seem like Jacobs knew how to fight on his back foot to me.
Yeah, well, still, to fight a fighter like Triple G, I don't think that the way that, if you watch how he switches feet and stuff like that, Jacobs really doesn't fight on his back foot. You know, he's all his weight's on his front foot. So if he would switch to his back foot, that's where your power on your uppercuts come from. But he's looking more to constantly switch, basically because he doesn't have good sense of balance on the back foot. So it just there's a lot that Danny does that I don't like for him on this fight. Triple G throws 2 different punches that a lot of people don't throw, you know, or you don't really see these days. He throws a real nice right hook, You don't see a lot of coaches don't even teach the right hook anymore. And he throws it's an overhand right, but it's not really. He don't throw it high. It's just right over the glove, and that's why there's so much power behind it. We're gonna go back into this video when you see it. You pointed it out. He opens himself up with the way that he moves back and forth in his stance to getting hit on the right side, the left side of that chin, almost constantly. He also did it, you know, when me and you were talking about doing this tonight, you had mentioned we were possibly going to watch the Ishe Smith fight. So I looked at a little bit of that too. And Ishe kept catching him with the right hand too.
And that's why I was like, when you had said that fight, when I had watched the Pirog fight and I said that to myself, I was like, man, Pirog was able to catch him with the right hand a whole lot. And then that's why when I watched the Ishe fight, and I was like, Ishe was doing the same, pretty much the same exact thing that Pirog was doing to Jacobs. And to me, I'm like, it just seemed like, you know, boxing mind is great boxing mind when you had said that fight too. And I was like, you know what? That is absolutely perfect. Why not even go to this fight alone? Because to do the same thing, but the way that he got dropped with Dimitry in this fight, it's scary to me.
I talked to a very good friend of Danny Jacobs that I'm going to leave nameless on this one. And he thinks that Danny's got a chance, but his exact words was he's going to have to do something miraculous. And he believes he's even going to have to get up off the canvas and win this fight in a comeback type fashion. He believes it's a very, very, you know, tough fight for him. But it was a fight that he couldn't take down. First of all, it's a step up fight for the best, the top, hell, damn near every belt in the division, and you know, it's big money for Danny Jacobs. It's life changing money. So,
right.
And that's really what these guys do it for. I mean, I know they love it, but at the end of the day, these guys are doing this to set their lives.
And so, like, could you tell us a little bit about what you know? Do you know anything about Dimitry before he fought Jacobs?
I have no idea. And for I was listening to something the other day. I got to actually do some more study. Something caused him to not be in boxing anymore after the fight. So I don't know exactly what it was. But no, I didn't. I knew nothing of him or after.
Right. Well, if y'all want to know a little bit about this guy, well, I do know that he's from Russia, and he's 7 years older than Jacobs. And as you can see, the fight has started, but he is 7 years older than Jacobs. And he had a pretty good amateur career. It wasn't great, and he was undefeated as a pro going into this fight with 16. He was 16-0 with 13 knockouts, and I think this fight right here, like you said, some things had happened to him, you know, pretty much after this fight that caused him to stop boxing. But this fight right here really is going to tell us a lot of what we could possibly see in the Gennady Golovkin versus Daniel Jacobs fight. But I think Jacobs has great ring generalship, the way that he's able to move around the ring. I think he knows where he is. But like you said, that pressure that Gennady brings, that makes you, you know, forget a lot of the things that you do that you know as a boxer fundamentally. Because I think when I was looking at that Kell Brook fight, I don't know if you were seeing the same thing. It just seemed like towards the end, like of the fourth round and that fifth round, and I could say the third round, it seemed like Kell was more so predicated on being on the ropes against Triple G, ducking and dodging more so than taking a fight to him. And it seemed like he was kind of pretty much running away. And I think Daniel Jacobs is going to take the fight to Triple G. I think he's going to bring it. He's going to outbox him. he's gonna outwork him. I mean, I'm picking Jacobs. I'm picking Jacobs because of the miracle story that he is. That's why I do want him to win.
How much money you got in your pocket?
Hey, I'm not betting on this one.
Joking with you.
I'm not going to bet on this one.
Look at Jacobs' jab in this, though. This is the problem I got with Jacobs. Jacobs is putting his jab up on the head like he's measuring rather than actually trying to hit him with the jab. That's going to be a problem with a stalker, and that's why Pirog is walking right through him, because he's not giving him anything to basically get away from. Another thing, when you're dealing with a stalker, you need to throw your jab at their chest level. Danny's throwing all his punches to the head. He's yet to even try to go to the body at this point either. You're not going to be able to get them pressure guys to stop unless you start throwing them shots down low, and you got to shoot everything basically to the chest and the shoulders. You got to hit them with something. You can't basically just put your hands on them. Pressure guys are built to take punches because you're coming forward. It's the old adage of "I'll take one to give two." Right. That's always been the way that Gennady fights too. So hitting them with the little stuff is not going to phase them. You got to hit them with something that's going to stop them. And the best way to slow anybody down is to touch that body. You seen it in the fight with Kell Brooks. As soon as he touched that body, Kell said, "Wait a minute, this is a fight I do not want to be
in." Made him change his mind real quick, right?
Oh yeah.
And what I like about Dimitry, what he did in this fight, that I think I'm not so sure. I want you to be able to tell me. He was able to mix his shots against Jacobs to keep, and he kind of kept him off guard. He was able to mix it up a little bit. He was able to go to the body, go to the head, go to the head, go to the body. He was mixing it up against Jacobs while he was walking him down at the same time. Do you think that's something that Triple G will be able to do against Jacobs? Because Jacobs, it seems like he's really going to have to change his whole. I love the fact that he's working with Virgil Hunter. I believe Virgil Hunter is going to put him in the best position to win against Triple G. I think he's going to coach him up real well, the way that he coached up Andre Ward against Sergey Kovalev after Ward had got dropped, in that fight. I believe he coached Ward up really good in order for Ward to end up with the decision. But at the same time, can we see DJ get up if he gets dropped by Triple G?
I mean, DJ's he's a hard fighter, so if he gets dropped like he did against Pirog, he's not gonna get up. So it just really depends. What I like about him working with Virgil Hunter is Virgil teaches very good defense. He's one of the best defensive trainers in boxing. So, and what I don't like about Jacobs is he leaves, like I said, he leaves his left chin open a lot. Right here he's not because he's in tight, but as soon as he steps away, you'll see that left hand, it'll fall.
But it's like he's leaving that body to take one of those Triple G body shots when he have that high guard on. And we know Triple G.
Well, it just you'll see that it's all a feel thing. It looks like it's open right there, but you can roll either side and shorten it up. It just depends on how quick his reflexes are. Because there's no way, your arms are only so long. There's no way you can cover the body and the head at the same time. It's all about how you move your legs, how you twist your hips. Defense is just it's movement and guard. So, but it's like right now, he's willy-nilly with his hands right now. So he just took a right hand. He's not really a defensive-minded fighter, but he's not offensive enough to be, a guy that's going. He's going to have to really throw some punches to keep Triple G from coming forward. And I believe Triple G is a better version of Pirog as far as pressure fighting.
Right, I remember you saying that earlier, and that makes a lot of sense though, because man, he was able to. Go ahead.
he's not throwing enough punches for me.
Right.
He's backing up, he's setting him up, but he keeps the jab ain't even a punch he's throwing. It's more of a push. It's the measure, but then he's not throwing the right hand, left hook behind it.
And see what I just with is when it comes down to it, those 2, 3, 4 punch combinations that he land on Triple G with the power that he possesses, man, I just feel like he's going to rock. If he could rock Triple G just enough to where, you know, it's a fight. God, man, I'm just, that's what I'm looking for to see in this fight. Like, can he just rock him one good time? You know, whether it's with 2 punch combination, 3 punch combination, like put Triple G in the position to where the pressure is on him more so than him bringing the pressure on you. And then we sitting here looking like, man, Jacobs was like, he didn't know what to do. I mean, you all the way down to your knees against this guy. That pretty much showed me right there, like Jacobs is ill prepared for this guy. He don't know what to do with all
this fight. This fight's been a while ago. Jacobs is a better fighter now than he was for this fight. So I'm not really putting a whole lot on this, but you know.
Okay, well, who has Jacobs fought recently that brings on the pressure like Gennady Golovkin or Pirog? Who has he fought recently that
nobody? Everybody else that he's fought since then have been boxers. You know,
right.
Peter Quillen was a boxer. He wasn't a pressure guy. Now Peter Quillen has power, but he's not a pressure. You know, so it just. Like I said, hopefully Virgil Hunter has taught him, but you know, Virgil don't teach a step-in jab either. Virgil is all about the same thing he's doing, the measure, keep you off jab. Pressure fighters, you got to give them something to make them stop coming forward. And until you give them something like that, they're gonna come forward until you go.
Right. Do you think Jacobs now? I mean, like, because some of the notes that I took from this fight, do you think like now the Jacobs that's right now today, do you think that he will be able to do something that could perhaps change this fight though with Triple G? Because we all know that Triple G is going to try to walk him down and bring the pressure on him. But what is it that you think Jacobs is going to do? Like if you were training your son going into a fight of this magnitude against this type of opponent, not necessarily being Triple G, but you're getting ready to face an opponent that has I would say that same mindset as Triple G as far as bringing the pressure, walking you down, and he pretty much fights the same way that Triple G fight. Like, what is it that you would tell your son going into a fight like this in order for him to be put in a good position to win? Like, that's one of the things I'm trying to figure out. Like, what is Virgil Hunter going to actually tell Jacobs going into?
The thing is that it's a catch-22. You know, the only reason I'm saying this is that about Triple G is I'm not, you know, it kind of might sound that I put him on a pedestal or whatever, but you know, he's a pressure fighter, which boxers, if good boxers love a pressure fighter because they're right there to hit. Now, what Danny's not doing in this particular fight that makes me concerned is he's not throwing combinations. It's still one punches. It's pity pat jabs. To be a come forward fighter is you got to basically throw 3-punch combinations and step off at an angle. 3-punch combinations, step off at an angle. 3-punch combinations, step off at an angle. The best in the business right now at doing that is Lomachenko. Lomachenko has unbelievable footwork, but he throws a billion punches with the footwork. You know, you look at two of the best footwork in boxing right now, both 2-time Olympic gold medalists, is Lomachenko and Guillermo Rigondeaux. The difference between Rigondeaux and Lomachenko, though, is Rigondeaux don't throw the volume of punches that Lomachenko throws.
Right.
You know, and Danny, when he's throwing his combinations, he's keeping them all at one level. He's not throwing top, bottom, you know, which makes it very easy to move and maneuver away from. Like I said, also at the beginning, he's not throwing his punches to the chest and the arm level. You throw your punches at the chest and the arm level because you can move your head, you can't move your chest. Every time you throw a punch, if you're throwing at the chest. Same at the shoulders. But a lot of times, if you throw at the shoulders and they move their head the right way, guess what you connect with? The head. But if you throw at the head and they move their head, you're going to miss all day long. So it's just the only thing about it, I'm hoping that Danny's going to throw a whole lot more combinations. In this fight, Danny wasn't throwing combinations. He looked like he was basically just trying to keep enough distance. And with the pressure fighter, you have to give them something every now and then to back them off. You know, we call it set up traps. Backing up, unleash the right hand. Backing up, unleash the right hand, left hook. You know, you got to set these guys up and give them something to make them say, whoa, I don't want to keep walking forward.
And I know when I was watching this fight, I put down that Jacobs was pretty much, you know, he was on. It seemed like like I said, he was uncomfortable with Pirog being the aggressor, and that he stayed on his back foot a lot. And he would, at times in this fight, he was landing some good combinations. Sometimes in this fight, like right there, we seen, you know, he was able to get off a 2 or 3 punch combination, and it seemed like, you know, like, okay, he's settling down, he's putting himself in, you know, in good position, but then it just seemed like he just falls back into that same old mode where he got his hands down and he's backing up more so, trying to run away from Pirog more so than bringing the fight to him.
Yeah, it definitely. See, he's fighting going backwards. You said he's fighting off his back foot. He's fighting going backwards, but he's not really fighting off his back foot because he's basically keeping his heel up as though he's trying to basically come forward, but going back. He's not setting up for, you know, when you're fighting off your back foot, it's a defensive posture. You're looking for the uppercut left hook. You're looking for, you know, a check hook. It's angle fighting. And Danny didn't do enough angle fighting in this. Like you said, he threw a 3-punch combination, but then there was nothing after the 3-punch combination. Right. It has to be set up, and then it has to be another 3-punch combination. It has against pressure fighters, you got to give them more than what they can handle. You know, if you look at Golovkin against Kell, the first 2 rounds, he pretty much it was ugly because, you know, Triple G was trying to find him. You know, he kept walking forward but couldn't find him. You know, because Kell was moving. He didn't find him until he slowed him down with that body shot. So, you know, against a guy that keeps coming forward, you basically you got to play chicken with him. It's the old, you know, bull in the ring, ole, 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 ole. And you got to do it for 12 rounds, and it's tiring. It's very tiring.
Right. I'm going to let people see that shot from that right hand right there. If they're looking at the screen, like that shot right there was pretty much landing in these first 4 rounds going into this 5th round, which I'm not going to say anything in this 5th round because I do want people who are viewing to see this knockout, because I know if I stop talking, then it'll switch the camera on you. But I'm not going to pretty much say anything in this round, and I want them to be able to see this knockout. I think it happened like in the next 40-something seconds. It was pretty much early in this round. Here it is. Boom. Do you think it was more so him backing up at that point in time was the reason why, like, he got caught with that shot? Like, I'm trying to figure out, how did he get caught with that? Even though that right hand was landing, but it seemed as if he was trying to move away or step. I don't know if he was. I had to look at the replay again. Was he stepping?
Honestly, I seen it coming because basically what was happening, and you could look at it, is that Danny was actually using kind of an in and out movement. Backing up would step in. You look twice that Pirog ducked down and his shoulder would hit Danny's chest. He ducked down, his shoulder hit his chest again. So the next time Danny did it, he didn't get to come forward too much because he met Pirog's right hand. Instead of dipping down the third time, he just actually turned into the right overhand right. They brought out the pillow for Danny.
Yeah, because he was asleep for like a good 5 seconds. Like, I'm talking about, he was looking like almost like how Curtis Stevens was looking like against Lemieux this past weekend. And I was like, man, I thought Curtis Stevens was dead.
Yeah, I'm glad Curtis Stevenson done lost because they robbed the piss out of my boy against Curtis Stevenson. So,
but here's that knockout. Here's that knockout.
You see, he's moving forward. Danny's trying to throw a right hand too. If you look at it, he's setting up to throw a right hand, but he drops his
right.
He drops his left hand while he's trying to throw his right hand, and it was night.
There it goes right here again. You see, it was like that feint to the left. He threw a feint, boom, boom.
Yeah, see, he actually threw a jab.
So
the same jab I said that he was throwing all night long, the lazy push-off jab. See it?
Oh, so you were okay then. Okay, I see it. So that's
he was throwing a lazy push-off jab rather than a real jab, and was trying to come back with a right hand and was wide open for perfect overhand right.
Man, so, to me, that was crazy. Seeing that Jacobs get dropped like that, it just makes me feel like I hope my boy just don't get dropped like by Triple G, man.
The thing is that's the Gennady signature punch too. Is it's a little looping right. He don't throw it up. He throws it right here, and that's how he puts everybody to sleep. If it's not from the body to the head,
right?
You know.
And we're building it up.
It's gonna be a good fight.
We building this fight up to where we saying like Jacobs is gonna be. He's gonna. A lot of people want to see him hang around and take Triple G in those deep waters, but
a lot of people want to see Jacobs beat him because a lot of people hate on Triple G. They think Triple G is a paper champion. Triple G is not a paper champion. He can fight. The boy can fight.
Good fighters as well, man. Triple G,
and a lot of people say that he hasn't fought good fighters, but that's because they don't watch boxing. Macklin, Murray, Monroe, all these guys are good fighters. They're not great fighters.
Right.
At the same time, he's been calling out everybody that is in the game. He's been trying to fight everybody that now I constantly hear, well, why didn't he go up and fight Ward? He would have had to go up 2 weight classes to fight Ward. Because when Ward came back, Ward said that he could not make 168 anymore. He had to go up above 168 to make that fight. He told Ward he'd take the fight at 164. I'm not going to 164. I can't make 168.
Right.
So there's in the whole trash talking that went on between them two. It was never a legitimate, catch weight for them to come to. We seen what happened when Kell Brooks. That's why I had a problem with the Kell Brooks fight. You don't want to go up 2 weight classes to fight Ward, but yet you ain't got no problem with Kell Brooks coming up 2 weight classes to fight you.
Right.
So I'd have felt a little bit better if he would have came down to like 157 to fight Kell Brooks, as opposed to fighting Kell Brooks at the 160-pound weight class. But that has really nothing. Like I said, I was mad that he took that, but he never had any interest of fighting 168, nor should he, because he's not a 168 pounder. Never said he was, and never tried to be. For Chavez, Chavez was a money fight that he could have took at 168. So, now that's where I got the big problem with Canelo. Canelo won't fight Triple G at 160 because he's not a middleweight, but yet it's okay to fight Chavez at 164.5.
I'm not understanding. That's what I don't. Is it more so to me? Canelo's saying that he's not scared. That is all. That he's pretty much putting all the pressure on Oscar. So everybody's now questioning Oscar. And we all heard from Oscar himself, like, no, I don't want you to fight Triple G right now. I don't want you to fight Triple G right now. I'm thinking it's more so build it up to make it a huge money fight.
It's Oscar. It's all Oscar.
Scared?
Oscar's scared of losing his money, his cash cow. Canelo is his cash cow, and building Canelo up to be the replacement for Floyd, but I think that ship's already sailed with the fact that he didn't fight Triple G.
Right.
Honestly, I think that the competitiveness and I think the PBC has killed the Floyd era. You're not going to get another guy like Floyd that is just going to be undefeated for a long time and be able. I think the cherry picking days are about to be over with. Based on the problems that Al Heyman's been having, Al's been sued for almost $1 billion by the people that invested the money into PBC. Because of that, Al said last year, no more cherry picking. Everybody's fighting everybody. And if you look at it, that's almost how it's been set up.
Right.
Since the beginning of the year, everybody's having to fight everybody. And, truth be told, that's the only way you're going to get people back in boxing. The only way you're going to get people back in boxing is to watch people, either put on great fights or stand in the middle of the ring and just beat the ever-loving snot out of each other. Pure boxing is not entertaining unless you're a boxing enthusiast.
Right, like this fight, that fight with Keith and Danny, to me, you had to be a hardcore fan to appreciate what we saw that night from Keith and Danny. Really, because a lot of people was like, oh no, that really wasn't a good fight. Like, that did nothing really. It seemed like Keith Thurman was on his bicycle, and I was like, no, like, it's called ring generalship. That was boxing. He outboxed Danny.
There's a reason why the hacks like Victor Ortiz still get offered fights after quitting in 3 different fights where he flat out just quit. He still gets contracts to fight because he's dumb. He stands in the middle of the ring and he goes toe-to-toe at war, and it's entertaining. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's entertaining. But me as a trainer, I'm never training my guy to fight like that. The game is, Floyd said it best, it's hit and don't get hit. The thing is we today lack the showmanship and not get hit like Muhammad Ali, like Sugar Ray Leonard.
Right.
Floyd was kind of on the same level as them as far as, not getting hit, but he wasn't pretty enough with it. He didn't have the dance with it, the swagger. The shoulder roll looked good, but it didn't look like them boys floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. Right. On top of that, what Floyd lacked from true boxing fans, guys, well, not boxing fans, let me say old era boxing fans, not new era boxing fans. And, I watched your little radio show. I don't want to throw you off real quick because your argument with Isaiah Thomas and whatnot, that's between me and you right there.
I love Isaiah.
No, you're good. But saying that he's better than his dad, you were complete fool with that one. But I still love you, Jeremy. No, but what I'm saying is that old school boxing guys, if Sugar Ray Leonard was in the gym and somebody came in and said, Marvin Hagler better than you, you know what happened the next day? Or that same day? He got on the phone with his manager and said, let's set this fight up.
Right.
Let me fight this guy. You, Floyd, he's on steroids, or I don't, Keith Thurman. When Keith Thurman started, making his move, Keith started calling Floyd out. Fight Floyd. Floyd said he ain't paid his dues yet. He's get your experience. You got to do a couple more things before I'll fight you. But yet he's trying to make a fight with a guy who's never had an amateur fight before and never been in a boxing ring before. Floyd throughout his career has do it knocking somebody and turn around and do the exact same thing a couple fight anybody for a championship at a catchweight. Well, Canelo fought him at a catchweight.
Right. Come on.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a Floyd hater. You know what I'm saying? I really respect what Floyd does in the game. And I think Floyd is one of the best boxers of our time. But to consider him one of the greatest of all times, I'll never do it because he never put himself in the arena to be the greatest. And what I mean by that, money. He wanted to basically stay healthy, which he's on record as saying 1,000,000 times. But he didn't want to challenge greatness, like Ali fighting Frazier 3 times. When he's waiting to fight Frazier, Frazier gets knocked out by Foreman. He tells them, call Foreman up. We fighting Foreman. Those are the guys that made boxing what we hope for it to be now.
But what about early in Floyd's career, though? I mean, we think about the later parts of Floyd's career and him not being able to take on. Well, I think probably if you take Chino Maidana fight, that was probably like one of the toughest fights Floyd been in since he's been Money May. But when he was Pretty Boy Floyd, I mean, he fought the Diego Canales, the Zab Judas of the world, the Castillo. He fought those fights earlier in his career. More so like when he turned to Money May. I mean, he didn't really have to take on any big time opponents during that era. But I mean, who was out there for him to fight during that time frame of him being Money Made that he could really be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead.
There was a lot of people. There was
name. Besides,
there was Margarito fighting.
Was Margarito not a cheater though?
That was found out later that he was a cheater. Now, don't get me wrong. All right, but nobody knew he was a cheater. The reason Mayweather didn't want to fight him is because he was knocking everybody the fuck out. Same with Paul Williams. Paul Williams was a 6'3" welterweight that threw 127 punches around and could fight while Paul Williams was on top. And didn't come back to the game till Paul Williams had moved up in weight class. And Paul moved up in weight classes not because he had to, as far as he couldn't make the weight. He did it because nobody would fight him at 147 pounds. He did it to keep being able to make money.
Right.
You remember what Sergio Martinez did to him,
Right.
But that was after a beautiful fight that they fought to a draw. Margarita, there was, even earlier in his career, Costa Zoo after Costa Zoo put, Zab Judah on the canvas with one of the funniest knockouts I've ever seen in my whole life. You know, I'm not knocking Floyd, but it's like I said, when those guys were on top, why don't you go after them? Why didn't, as soon as Pacquiao started knocking everybody out that Floyd was out there, you don't go say, let me fight that guy?
That is true, because Floyd wanted to fight, he could have had to fight.
Why didn't, when Thurman's coming up, let me get that young lion. Let me show that boy some.
He fought Canelo. What about? I mean, and Canelo was like on the come up during that time.
He was on the come up, but he was still raw. He had not had any kind of real fight yet. Canelo has won that fight.
Shane? Did he go 12? I think he went 12 rounds with Shane, right? When they fought on the undercard.
Yeah, but Shane was 175 years old.
True that.
You know, that's the whole, you know, coming to America, you know, Joe Louis fighting Rocky Marciano fight. You know, most of the people, Floyd fought great fighters. He fought De La Hoya very old. Very old. They were past their prime. You know, like I said, a lot of the tough fights that Floyd fought was under Bob Arum. He didn't have a choice.
Right.
Once he left Bob Arum and signed with Al Heyman, he stopped taking the hard fights. Name the last boxer taking you out.
The last
Berto,
Floyd.
Berto.
I mean, okay, Berto, but
Berto's a C.
Berto looked like a fighter.
You know, so it just 3 days back, and you got guys right now like Keith Shanko, like, you know, I wanted to say Terrence Crawford taking a break right now because he ain't fight, you know, no top tier guy in a little while. So Terrence and Lomachenko, my favorite two fighters right now.
What about Mikey Garcia, though? Seeing what Mikey did in his last fight with that performance that he put on, that knockout that Mikey showed, pretty much brought Mikey back into the forefront of, I mean, now he's calling out Keith Thurman like I feel like he's just like reaching for the stars there, but I want to see you take on the likes of like a Terrence Crawford or Tevin Farmer. Tevin Farmer done called out. Tevin Farmer said, hey, instead of you going up to fight Keith, why don't I come up to fight you? You know, Tevin is calling out Mikey Garcia right now, and I'm thinking like, hey, that's going to be a good fight if Tevin Farmer's able to go at it against Mikey Garcia, because I'm ready to Garcia take on some really good opponents now.
Tevin Farmer, I like Tevin Farmer a lot, but I got to see him against a top tier guy before I give, you know, that I pass that torch or that mantle that you know. The good thing about Tevin, though, is Tevin's put his name in the hat. You know what I'm saying? Right. He's calling out the good people. You know, I actually would like to see, you know, one of my boys, Tank.
I love
Gervonta Davis.
I love him.
You know, Floyd's at least, you know, he's steering Gervonta in the right direction. You know, the thing is that he's got a belt, so you can't cherry pick too much, and he's going for another belt, you know, overseas coming up. They're on their press conferences right now. The name eludes me right now who he's fighting, but you know, that's somebody I'd like to see fight Tevin Farmer too. Is Tank and Tevin would be a hell of a fight.
Right.
So plus that's two fight areas. You got, you know, the Baltimore DC area against the Philadelphia kid. That's some fun boxing right there.
I honestly believe, like we was just talking, when Tank with Gervonta, I think Floyd is doing a magnificent job with taking him overseas to fight, because that's building up his exposure, as well as helping out the money team as well. But it's building up his exposure, and at the same time, he's getting good quality opponents. he's really getting he's getting good. He's fighting Lim Wash. That's the guy who he's
Yeah.
and they're fighting for the IBF world title. They're fighting for Gervonta's title. I don't think it's another title that's on the line, if I'm not mistaken. But what he did,
I thought Gervonta had the WBO, but go ahead.
he got the IBF. But
Okay.
but Lim Wash, to me, I mean, what, he's 21-0. He hasn't really pretty much been in the ring against anybody that I feel as though can put him in a position to say, well, hey, he's better than Pedraza, who Gervonta fought for the title. I believe Pedraza was his toughest opponent. I believe this guy right here, Lim Wash, is going to be knocked out in like the first three or four rounds. And Gervonta is going to be sailing back to the United States, happy, remaining a champion. And a lot of people are saying, well, when are you going to fight Lomachenko? You know, everybody's saying, but I'm glad that he's not reaching out there to fight Lomachenko as of yet. He's going to get a really lot of other fights under his belt before he do fight a Lomachenko. But Tevin Farmer, I don't know. I don't think Floyd will steer that way, because you think Tevin Farmer's going to bring any money into that fight?
No, but at the same time, Tank ain't fighting for big dollars yet. You know, so the only person at that weight class that's going to bring that top tier money is Lomachenko. You know, and Floyd came flat out and said, it's going to be interesting to see.
Right.
So,
who does Gervonta fought? That's a southpaw. Was Jose Pedraza? Was he a southpaw? I can't remember.
I don't believe so.
When he fought, because
he's orthodox. He's orthodox.
So he is orthodox. Oh, okay. Wash is right. He is orthodox. I know Lim Wash is a southpaw, and I wonder, does that play a factor? You know, going into this fight against Gervonta?
Not for Tank, because Tank had 200-something amateur fights. Tank's been in the ring with everything, you know. And I've seen Tank spar southpaws. You know, southpaw is not going. Orthodox southpaw is not going to be any different for Tank as far as the fight goes. It's just a matter of the young boy getting in the ring. You know, for he's explosive. That boy is so explosive.
Yes.
But he can box.
And he could box.
You know,
right?
So he's a very fun kid to watch. I mean, humble, you know, talks good trash, but, you know, does it real low. You know, I really like the kid. He's a good kid.
He is. And I think Gervonta, man, he's going to be – I really love how – because if you look at that stable that Floyd has over there, you got guys like Ladarius Miller and Jalen Love, like those guys. But when we watch those guys fight, we didn't see that it factor that Gervonta possesses. Gervonta possesses a it factor. Like,
yeah,
he hits you, he hits you. You know, we don't.
If you know, our boxing region, our amateur boxing region is the same region is where Gervonta come from. You know, it's for Silver Gloves anyway. You know, it's out of that DC area, and it's something about that DC area. Almost every boxer that comes out of that area, you know, they possess that swag. That you know, there's a young cat. He's been on a lot of YouTube clips. You know. Lorenzo, I think what's Lorenzo's last name? Dang it, it's Simpkins or something like that. They call him Truck. You know, he's a 178-pound, 16-year-old kid just knocking everybody out. You know, I was blessed to be in the ring with and referee one of his fights one time. You know, artist, but yet he still has that same fun swagger to him. You know, some of the little kids that come out of there, you know, that's where Lamont Peterson from, you know, out of the Headbangers gym out of there, you know, that's where Barry Hunter and them, you know, train out of. So, and of course the the YouTube sensation, Patrice Boogie Harris, the mitt man that gives mitts for everybody in the world. Real good dude too. It's just watching. The thing that I love about Gervonta is he's he's a kid. There was some fallout between him and Floyd, going back probably about 6 months to, a year ago, where Floyd wanted him to leave area and come out to Las Vegas and live and train and everything. And Tank was like, no, I'm not leaving my foundation. Calvin Ford's my trainer. I'm staying with Calvin. Calvin's going to be the one that's going to, be in my ring. I don't need, your dad and, Roger and all them in my corner. I need Calvin. Calvin's raised me since I was a kid. My mom's here. I got to be around my mom. Now, the funny thing is Gervonta actually spends most of his time in the Atlanta area now. We get to see him a lot. But when it comes time to fight, he's not in Atlanta. He's in Baltimore. He's with Calvin, and he's putting in the work, We talked to Calvin at the Junior Olympics last year, and that was before, Tank got his title fight. And Calvin was like, Tank's not ready. Tank needs to headline a card before he goes for a title fight. He needs to see what it's like for the lights to be real bright. Calvin looked out for his best interest, and that's what, Tank really wanted, was for the people who's going to be, I say this to all my young boxers, and this is to anybody that's listening who, is a trainer or a young boxer. You're only as good as your team. Now, it's only you and one other guy in that ring, but there's a lot of people who's in charge of getting you ready for that fight, whether it be your trainer, whether it be your mom, your dad, whoever it is that's in your corner that's part of your team is going to carry you to where you're going to be. And the more bad apples that you put in that team, likely that you're going to end up basically like where Adrian Broner is today, where he's trying to recreate his image because he let too many bad apples into that entourage and, didn't want to listen to Mike Stafford anymore, his trainer, wanted to do whatever he wanted to, going to this camp, going to that camp, and not doing what Adrian Broner wanted to do rather than, what the people in his camp told him he should be doing.
Right.
Humility and having people in your camp that are humble is what's going to take you a long way in this game.
So let me ask you this one last question before we get ready to go, is within this fight right here, I want to get back to the fight real quick. Do you think, because this is the question that I kind of have that a lot of people, I haven't heard anybody ask this question yet, but do you think, and I seen a dumb article today, they was pretty much saying that, Canelo's going to have, that Triple G's going to have problems because he's going to be very light going into this fight, because they showed like the 30-day weigh-in, the 7-day weigh-in. But to me, one question I have to ask you is, with Jacobs, do you feel as though Jacobs is ready for this moment? Like, because this is big. If you're a real hardcore, and you had a casual boxing fans as well, but as a hardcore boxing fan, like this right here is kind of big, because if Jacobs do lose and and
Triple G
is on top like that after beating Jacobs, and people saying, oh, well, this is his toughest opponent. And, we heard everybody who Triple G done fought within his last 4 or 5 opponents. He even said Kell Brook was his toughest opponent, when he fought Kell Brook, and everybody's like, are you serious? He's a welterweight. But with this fight right here with Jacobs, if he beats Jacobs, and I'm going to do it a vice versa question as well, but if he beats Jacobs, like, does that really set up a big fight for Canelo? Or if he loses to Jacobs, does that kind of make it okay for Canelo to kind of stay away from Gennady since he lost to Jacobs now, or do you think?
Well, I mean, the Triple G Canelo fight loses its luster if he loses to Danny Jacobs.
You sure
So,
because when Juan Mel Marquez knocked out Pacquiao, we thought, oh, there's not going to be a Floyd fight. It's not going to happen. Marquez done dropped this man, put him to sleep, and they ended up fighting 2 fights later. I think 2 or 3 fights later after that. Well, Pacquiao.
Yeah, they did, but then again, Pacquiao he wasn't the same guy, So the fight may happen, but is it going to be as good a fight as once a guy? I'm telling you, once the chin goes, it's hard to come back from that. That's why you question on how Danny Jacobs is going to deal with this fight. Now, Danny's been in there with some hard hitters. Peter Quillen. Peter Quillen is a hard hitter. Right. So, to me, is if Danny wins this fight, then the next fight is Canelo and Danny. Forget about Triple G. Let's fight Danny. You need the middleweight belt. So you need to stay. Canelo needs to stop fighting all these catch weights and fight at a real weight for a real belt. Either fight at 154 for a real belt, or fight at 160 for a real belt, or go up to 168.
I thought he was going to either, if you don't fight at 160, you fight at 168, because Chavez is a what, an original 168?
Yes, and they're fighting at 164 and a half.
And the people saying, well, Chavez is going to struggle a little bit because of him having to lose that weight. But to me, I think that's more so an advantage on Chavez, more so than it is with him fighting more so than it is with Canelo, him fighting Canelo. I mean, Chavez is the bigger fighter. He has the reach. I believe he has, and he possesses power. But to me, Canelo had power too as well. But I think
power usually very rarely goes up in weight class. So, I don't think Canelo's going to basically have power that Chavez is going to respect. But to me, Chavez is not a real boxer. Chavez, lived off his daddy's name, and he's pretty decent, but he doesn't have the heart for this sport. That's right. That's why Oscar had no problem taking this fight. So to me, it's what concerns me. The same thing that concerns me with Kell Brooks going back down to 147 to fight what's his name. When you blow up or you put on this muscle to fight at a bigger weight class and then come back down,
you're gonna lose something.
You lose speed, because basically that muscle mass it gets up there, but then it's built and it's like scar tissue when it comes back down. So you've seen it with Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. lost his speed after he went up to fight Ruiz. He put on all that weight and that muscle mass to fight at heavyweight. He was never the same guy when he came back down
and fought Tarver.
Yeah, my question is going to be: is it going to affect Kell Brooks and Canelo the same way? Because Canelo's not going to stay at this 164 and a half. His next fight's probably going to be at middleweight. So, I'd like to see Canelo get the win over Chavez, and Triple G get the win over, Danny, and we finally get the fight that we've been waiting for.
Well, you're picking Triple G, right?
Oh, of course.
Oh, okay. So you picking Triple G. Me, I gotta go, man. I gotta go with Brooklyn, man. I gotta go with the man from Brooklyn, man. I'm picking Danny Jacobs to win this fight by decision. I want it to be a knockout, but I don't think it's going to be a knockout. But I'm picking him to win this fight by decision, taking Triple G off the throne and becoming that man, because I just love his story, man. It's just something about his story that I feel like if he does win this fight, man, like this will be awesome. And this is like stories that we need in boxing, you know? Like I feel like that's something that we need in boxing, because I mean everybody's scared of Triple G. But him, he's like, I'm not afraid of anything, man. I beat cancer, you know, like, so nothing strikes fear in my heart. So I'm feeling like, well, don't set yourself up, you know, to feel like you can't get knocked out by this guy. But at the same time, really love, and I'm really going for the underdog in this one. And it sucks because, you know, I've been riding with Triple G in a lot of his other fights, but this fight right here alone, I have no choice but to go with the guy that's from Brooklyn, and that's Jacobs, and I'm picking him to win. I'm picking Jacobs to come out with an upset and surprising everybody at the MGM, surprising them all. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Ain't mad at you. You know, I wish the best for him. I just don't think it's gonna happen. You know, I've heard rumors he's moving to the Atlanta area, so that would make things even better for us in the amateur career. For, you know, the guy who beat Triple G to be in the area at some of these events. So don't know how true that rumor is.
Quick question. So with Evander, they saying he's getting his promotional license and everything like that. Is that going to help this area right here? Because a lot of my people though at TBV, they're like, dude, the bone down there in Atlanta. The closest thing you got is Wilder. So that's why I get the opportunity, you know, to go down to Wilder's camp and stuff like that. And then I'll be going down to Keith Thurman's camp when Lubin starts fighting again, because I think Lubin's going to get a fight before Keith. But I'm gonna go down there for those guys. But with Evander getting his promotional license, do you think that's kind of going to help us here in the state of Georgia and in Atlanta itself, with him like that's here at home more so than the LA area? Because right now he's looking for Mexicans. He's looking for fighters over there.
The thing is that truth be told, the money is in the Mexicans. That's why Canelo's supposed to be the next face. That's why the two dates that Floyd fought on was Cinco de Mayo and September, because that was you know, September is the Mexican independence, and he usually fought against a Mexican or somebody that the Mexicans love. Right. Mexicans are where the money's at in boxing, so that's why he's looking for the Mexicans.
But he's starting, it's like he's starting back, right? Like you don't have nobody. I mean, why not find?
Well, the thing is right now your Atlanta people are signed. You know, the up and coming pros are already signed, so that's probably why he went there. LA is, you know, there's a gym on every corner, and there's multiple, you know, boxers coming out of California that are pretty good. You know, same as New York. You got names in Atlanta, you know. I mean, Augusta is not Atlanta, but it's only 3 hours out. Justin Deloach, you know. You have a up and coming guy. He's recently a 2-time national champion, Money Powell. He signed to his pro debut's coming up in a couple weeks. You got up and coming fighters. You got Keandre Leatherwood, who's got a couple losses, but he fights Andy Lee on the undercard of the Gennady Golovkin fight this week. Keandre out of Smyrna. You know, Atlanta's got fighters. You know, the southern region's got fighters. So, like you said, down in Clearwater, you know, you got Keith's gym. You got, you know, amateur program down there in Florida is very good. You know, so we got good things on the horizon. So it's just, you know, we're ready to see it flourish. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens with so hopefully Evander gets to see my boy CR Ray Barlow. You know,
Right. Like, I'm ready for CR. I know he was telling me that he was getting, he was about to take a fight. I don't know if it was in Philly. I think it was in Philly. He was saying that he was going to have a fight in Philly. I believe it was like during the time that I was going to this fight, and then I was like, man, like I would have loved for him to get that opportunity, and it's like I'm really ready to see, you know, that guy put in work because, like I said, when you know he was down in your gym, man, I heard a lot of rumors like he was the hardest worker in there.
yeah, he was great kid, you know, up and comer. I want to see him get his shot. You know, he basically I went through a couple things with myself. I'm really just only dealing with my son right now, and took some time off. And he got a good opportunity. He's with Zaire Rahim, who was, I believe, the '96 Olympic team. You know, had professional fights and is a good guy out of Stone Mountain. So he went on with him, and you know, boxing it's a lot about who you know more than what you know sometimes. So I was real happy for Ray to actually move on to a guy who has connections, you know, and I'll probably piggyback off of it a little bit, you know, and learn a lot more and just being in the business more for a couple of years before, you know, I'm really ready to jump into the program. I really didn't want to deal with a pro fighter, but because, you know, I've been with Ray for about 3 or 4 years, I was gonna do it. Wasn't excited about it. So I was actually glad when him and Raheem got together. So it's just it's fun watching this stuff because you see these young guys like Danny Garcia. I know people, I didn't see him, but I know people that's worked his corner, you know, when he was, you know, 15 years old. So, you know, what you probably seen, you know, being around it a lot is that boxing's a lot smaller circle than a lot of other sports. You know, like when my son was coming up, he played basketball, football, and baseball. I tell people this story all the time. You know, the chances of him walking into, you know, a gym and seeing Peyton Manning on a regular basis is very slim and none. But he's done met Evander Holyfield. He's done met Roy Jones Jr. He's done, you know, met Terrence Crawford, Keith Thurman. You know, he's had talks with all these guys, you know, and they all talk to him like he's a regular human being. You know, it's not like, hey, get off, or, you know, I need $10 for an autograph. It's like, no, young buck, come in. You know, what you got? You know, um, it's a family, even though all these guys, like you've seen a lot of people were worried about the Keith Thurman and Danny fight because there was so much respect between the two guys that there wasn't trash talk until, you know, Danny's dad got up there and was, you know, right, started acting like he does. You know, but, you know, even in that, I had a lot of problem with that. You know, they were trying to call him a racist and stuff like that. And it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think Angel did what it, you know, Angel was just being Angel. If people know Angel, that's Angel being Angel. And he was doing what he could to help build his fight up, sell the fight, but they made it more so, oh, he's a racist, he's this, that, and the third, and all that. And I'm like, Angel's not that type of guy. I mean, shoot, this is funny. I actually posted this on Facebook, man. This is where I felt like Danny really took a L. So I'm over at the pizza, I think it's Pizza to Go or something like that. That's in Brooklyn. I'm over there. We just left with Errol Spence. So I'm walking out. Me and my boy Jay from Orlando, we walking out, and I'm like, man, I got to go to the bathroom because I didn't get nothing to drink while I was eating my pizza because I had to go to the bathroom. And then that bathroom was out of order. So I'm like, all right, we walk in, and I'm like, well, let me run into Applebee's real quick and use the bathroom, and then we can go. And I'm like, right there. So I'm like, man, I see all this DSG, you know, apparel. I wonder who these people are. Like, I thought they was just fans, and I'm like, this is Applebee's. Like, yeah, ain't nobody finna be up in no Applebee's eating, you know, post weigh-in meal. You're gonna be at Applebee's. I'm like, no, this can't be happening. So I walk in, boom, Angel right there. standing at the hostess, they waiting to be seated, and I'm looking at Angel, and I'm like, I walk up to him, I'm like, I tap him on the shoulder, I'm like, Angel, man, are you serious? And he was like, well, what's good? He's all like, trying to hug, and I'm like, no, like, why do you have Danny like finna eat Applebee's for a post weigh-in meal? Like, that is a L. All the places.
No, it ain't, Jeremy. Jeremy, them jokers eat everything at post fight. I'll guarantee you, Thurman had probably about two slices of pizza. It might have been in his room. It wasn't at Applebee's. But these guys,
they said Keith was over at Junior's, and they was like, nah, ain't no DSG coming up in here, like, and so they ended up going to Applebee's.
Man, these jokers eat everything. Once you made weight, it doesn't matter what goes in your body, especially for them, because it's a day before. They don't basically jump off the scale and go fight like amateurs do. Their first meal is going to be the worst meal. Like, as soon as they step off, well, you got to give it about an hour or two because your stomach's so strong, but they step off the scale, they're going to eat something bad. And then it tapers off to the good stuff, the apples, the oranges, and the stuff like that. So no, he didn't lose because he went to Applebee's.
I was like, he took an L already.
I see you posted. I was laughing my butt off. But there's things that are good at Applebee's for you. You know what I'm saying?
What the 2 for $20? What are you gonna eat?
He probably ate off the Weight Watchers side. You know what I'm saying? So
some chicken paninis or something, some rice or something. I was like, come on, man.
He probably got like a little steak or something like that. He probably got some. Yeah, I mean, he knows what his body needs. So to me, when he lost the fight, was in the first right hand that Keith threw, and he looked like he was like, oh shit.
Yeah, so, right. Like, oh boy, I'm in a tough one. But it's good though, man. But man, I really do appreciate you coming on. Like, we definitely going to be doing this more often. Really getting into a lot of these fights that are coming up. Having your opinion, which I respect very much. Especially going into this weekend's fight. I really want to thank you for coming on and giving us a good breakdown on what we should see going into this fight and what could possibly happen. Although I can't agree with you because I am picking Jacobs to win this fight.
No animosity there. No animosity.
It's going to be a good one. I'm definitely going to do a show, an immediate reaction show right after that fight.
I'll be on to tell you, you need to bow.
No, I ain't going to be eating no crow because I'm going to make my picks on tomorrow because we do a show. We have a live TBV podcast tomorrow. I'm going to make my pick tomorrow. I made my pick tonight. Make it known tomorrow, and then by Sunday, I'll see if I'm gonna be eating crow or not. But I highly doubt it because I really feel good about this fight right here with Jacobs, man. I feel like Jacobs is he's gonna upset the world, man. He's gonna upset the world. He's got to do something for Brooklyn since Danny took that L, and so everybody's heart is kind of down in New York area,
tri-state area.
Yeah, so he's gonna kind of like bring some more belts and titles back over there, and man, to do it against Triple G is gonna be huge. So I hope he pull it off. And
anytime you want me on, I'll be on. It was a blast. And for those boxing fans in the Atlanta area, the Atlanta Golden Gloves is this weekend, Saturday and Sunday at Buckhead Fight Club, starting at 3:00. If you're in the area and just want to see some young up and coming boxers, it'd be nice to see it. I don't have anybody boxing, but I'll probably be in the building just checking some folks out.
Hey, we should go together. You said it's this Saturday, right? Saturday and Sunday, right? We should go together. I actually
Saturday and Sunday. So I'll touch bases with you. I don't know if I'm going Saturday. I'm definitely going Sunday. Sunday's the championship bout. So we'll touch bases and see what the deal is.
Mark it up. We going Sunday. I'm down.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, I'll let you.
All right. Have a good one, B. Appreciate it.
All right, later.